If you've ever dreamed of owning a supercar, you need to know something first. The car you want? Governments, corporations, and billion-dollar lobbies have already tried to make sure you never get it. Not because it was unsafe, not because it failed, because it worked. And the wrong people noticed. These are the 5 cars someone very powerful tried to erase before you ever saw them. The EV1 wasn't a concept. It wasn't a prototype sitting behind rope in a museum. It was a real car, leased to real people in real driveways across California, about 800 of them. And those people loved it. Engineers, doctors, ordinary people, 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds. In 1996, 0 emissions, almost no maintenance costs. GM's own engineers were calling it the future. So why did GM send certified letters demanding the keys back? Why did they flat out refuse to sell them? And why, when owners showed up at the crusher and begged on their knees to buy the cars outright, did GM go ahead anyway? Nobody outside of those boardrooms knows the full answer, and that should bother you. The next car wasn't killed by a corporation, it was killed by a sport that it was winning. Imagine building a car so fast that your competition doesn't even try to match it. They just changed the law. The Plymouth Superbird hit 220 miles per hour on oval tracks in 1970. Richard Petty drove it to 21 wins in a single season. NASCAR's response? They didn't build better cars. They didn't push their engineers harder. They passed a rule written specifically to ban the Superbird's aerodynamic package. After one season, one car, one season, the entire rule book rewritten. NASCAR banned a car because it was too fast. But what GM did to this next Swedish manufacturer was far worse. They didn't ban it, they bought it, just to quietly suffocate its genius from the inside. Saab wasn't failing when GM bought them. Let's be very clear about that. They were just different in a way that made every other car maker look lazy. Turbocharged engines, before turbo was cool. Safety cages, before Volvo made it a brand identity. A dashboard with a night panel mode that blacked out every instrument except the speedometer. An ignition switch between the seats. These weren't gimmicks. They were genuine engineering choices that nobody else was brave enough to make. GM bought a 50% stake in 1989 and then spent the next 20 years quietly, systematically stripping out everything that made Saab, Saab. By the time they filed for bankruptcy in 2011, the cars were sharing platforms with Opels and Cadillacs. The weirdness, the brilliant, stubborn, Swedish weirdness had been engineered out on purpose. Before we get to the most unbelievable one, the car whose own creator was genuinely too scared to drive it, drop the word erased in the comments right now if you think at least one of these was a deliberate cover-up. Because honestly, after the research that went into this video, I'm not sure I disagree with you. GM engineered the genius out of Saab because they couldn't control it. But our next car didn't die because of corporate suits, it died because the monster under the hood genuinely terrified the man who built it. When the engineer who built the TVR Cerbera Speed 12 took it out for a test drive, he came back, got out of the car, and told his boss, I'm going to quote him directly, I am not going to put a figure on what this thing produces because nobody would believe me. Estimates ranged from 800 to 1,000 horsepower in a car that weighed barely over a ton, with no traction control, no stability management, no ABS, nothing between you and whatever was underneath that bonnet. It was so violent it snapped its own drive shafts on the dyno. TVR killed the project, not because of safety regulations, not because of emissions laws, because the man who built it was scared of it. In 2002, Volkswagen drove a prototype from Wolfsburg to Hamburg, 230 miles, on a single liter of fuel, 261 miles per gallon. They called it the 1-liter car. The press completely lost their minds. And then, nothing happened. It took 11 years and a full redesign before a tiny production run of 250 cars reached customers at 111,000 euros each. 250 cars. For a technology that could have been in every driveway on the planet, Volkswagen said production costs were prohibitive. Maybe that's true, but you have to ask yourself, who exactly benefits when a 261 miles per gallon car stays in a museum? 5 cars destroyed by corporate greed, government red tape, and fear. But these are just the ones we know about. Imagine the masterpieces buried in silent archives that we will never see. That's the terrifying part. The files are closed forever. But if you think corporate sabotage is wild, this next story will make you furious. A billionaire paid millions for a Bugatti, but when one tiny part broke, the CEO personally stepped in to stop him from fixing it. The truth? You don't actually own your car. Click here to see why.